Ryan Camber along here with Nolan Gelbard, and this is MultiVersus.
Now this series stems from a pretty simple concept.
We take an event in sports history, we change that event just a little, and then we show you how much it affects the future. On this first episode of MultiVersus, we're going to discuss the 1994 baseball season. Let me set the tone for you.
Bill Clinton is president of the United States. Nelson Mandela was just elected president of South Africa. Musicians Phil Collins, Pearl Jam, and Snoop Doggy Dogg are dominating the pop charts as the world mourns a loss of another star, Kurt Cobain. Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption, The Lion King, and Forrest Gump are all released, and O.J. Simpson flees police in his white Ford Bronco.
In baseball, there was a bit of tension in 1994.
Right.
There was a lot of disagreement between the players and the owners.
What it came down to is on August 12th, 1994, the MLB goes into a work stoppage.
That work stoppage lasted 232 days. For the first time since 1904, a World Series was not played. Let's rewind a bit. Now, the Montreal Expos
Now the Washington Nationals.
are now the Washington Nationals, of
Right.
course.
They were formed in 1969 and played their home games at Jerry Park before moving to Olympic Stadium. They didn't have the most success. Aside from an NLDS win in 1981, their fans adored them.
And then in 1994, for the city of Montreal, everything was coming together. They had a great team. They had Larry Walker, Marquise Grissom, Pedro Martinez. This team was filthy. This was a great team, and this was supposed to be the year that Montreal wins the World Series. On the other side of the league, you have the New York Yankees.
As we all know the Yankees for legends such as Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio, and Mantle, and their history of winning.
Too much winning.
Never too much. But in 1994, they were falling on some hard times. You see, the Yankees hadn't won a World Series since 1978. That has been their longest championship drought
Since they won their first World Series back in 1923. They still had their fair share of good players, though. They had Don Mattingly, Bernie Williams was coming up, Paul O'Neill won the batting title that year.
And it really seemed like it was going to be Don Mattingly's last chance at playing in the postseason and even winning a World Series.
He had a history of back injuries that constantly plagued him for years. Now, Mattingly in the 80s had a 6-year peak where he was one of the best players in baseball. However, late in his career, his back kept him from being the great player he once was. Neither Mattingly nor the Expos ever got their chance at the Fall Classic, as the labor stoppage ended the 1994 season on August 12th. The Expos relocated to Washington 10 years later, and Don Mattingly never did get his ring. He retired after 1995 with 0 World Series appearances.
The Yankees, of course, went on to be fine. They formed a dynasty, winning 4 of 5 World Series.
Yeah.
1996 through
All right,
2000.
go back to the Expos. I want to hear more about them, not the Yanks.
What happened with the Expos after 94, they sold off their entire team. They didn't have the money to fund their great players.
Okay.
They had to trade Larry Walker, they traded Marquise Grissom to the Braves, and eventually they had to trade Pedro Martinez. The 1994 player strike literally just ended that Expos franchise. But in this universe, the MLB, they come up with an agreement on September 24th, 1994. Baseball Commissioner Bud Selig called an urgent press conference. Selig says, "I am overjoyed to announce that a new collective bargaining agreement has been met between the players and owners. While it was too late to salvage the rest of the regular season, the postseason will happen as previously scheduled."
When asked what would have happened if the postseason had not been played,
Selig quipped, "A national embarrassment. I'm sure not even any sport would be able to recover if we had to cancel the postseason. Good thing we'll never have to find out."
1994 was the first year of a 3-divisional format with the wild card.
While this postseason was never played in real life,
The actual first year of that format was 1995, in a thrilling series between the Yankees and Seattle Mariners that ended in a walk-off double by Edgar Martinez.
in the American League, the 1 seed were the Eastern champion Yankees.
Okay.
Their Central Division champion was the White Sox. That was Frank Thomas. In the American League West, were the Texas Rangers. Now, the thing about the 94 Texas Rangers, they were 52 and 62 by the end of the season. They were in first place, but they didn't really deserve to. Had that postseason been played, they were first in the AL West. Granted, they had some good players. They had
Juan Gonzalez,
Ivan Rodriguez. Again, they weren't a bad team, but in the 14 division of the AL West, they had the best record. The other teams weren't too far behind. Only 5.5 games separated the Angels and Rangers. The Angels were in last place. So this was really anyone's race, but again, for argument's sake, we're going to put the 10 games under 500 Rangers
As first
in the
place in the division.
postseason.
Okay.
The wild card would be the best team in the AL that didn't win their division, the Cleveland Indians.
Now, of course, there's
Got it.
Indian teams, Manny Ramirez, Jim Tomei, one of the all-time great teams to never win a World Series. We'll get to them. The 1 seed in the National League is, of course, the National League Eastern champion Montreal Expos. The number 2 seed was Barry Larkin and the Cincinnati Reds, and the 3 seed, Mike Piazza and the Los Angeles Dodgers.
There we go.
The wild card is the Atlanta Braves, who, of course, have something brewing with the best staff in probably baseball history. 3 first-ballot Hall of Famers, Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, and John Smoltz. So, really good playoff.
In the division series, Yankees take it in 5 against the Indians.
They win the rubber match 5-2 on 7 innings of 2-run ball by one-hand wonder, Jim Abbott. Yes, he was on the team this year.
All right.
This was the year after he threw a no-hitter against the Indians.
I'm with it. All right.
The White Sox easily take care of business against the sub-500 Texas Rangers.
Their shortstop and future managing hothead, Aji Guillen, slugged 2 home runs in a 3-game sweep, doubling his season total of 1. Anything can happen in the postseason, right?
Anything can happen.
In the National League, the Expos showed the baseball world that they were not messing around. They dispatched Atlanta in a quick 4 games, outscored them 27-4 over the course of the series.
Braves won their only victory by the score of 2-1 in Game 3.
They had a 12 strikeout complete game by future Hall of Famer John Smoltz. Doesn't matter though, the Expos took Game 4, 12-1. Larry Walker paced all hitters with a .500 batting average in the series. In Los Angeles, Dodgers took down Cincinnati in 4 games behind a 3-homer performance from catcher Mike Piazza.
I like that.
The championship series were both highlighted by fantastic pitching performances. In the ALCS, it was the Yankees southpaw Jimmy Key who stole the show. The White Sox had no answer for the Bombers' 33-year-old ace. Key went 2-0 in the 6-game series, starting games 2 and 6, and letting up a combined 2 runs in 15 innings en route to winning series MVP. Montreal continued to be a force in the National League Championship Series, as a strong bullpen headed by closer John Wetland and a rotation featuring Ken Hill, Pedro Martinez, Jimmy Facero, and Butch Henry flat out dominated your Dodgers offense that combined for an abysmal 179, 250, 320 in 5 games.
The Expos 2-4 hitters combined to slash 350, 470, and 550.
Yeah, sounds about right recently in the postseason with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you're missing is a Clayton Kershaw choke.
Still hurts.
Now, the Expos-Yankees matchup is set. The media was all over it. The Yankees are traditional power who hasn't won since 1978 in the midst of one of their longest droughts since their first World Series in 1923.
Okay.
On top of that, Captain Don Mattingly was about to experience his first Fall Classic. The Expos, on the other hand, were playing in their first World Series in franchise history. Montreal set the tone for the series on the very first pitch, a leadoff home run off the bat of outfielder Marquise Grissom. By the time the 5th inning rolled around, the Expos had chased Jim Abbott for 6 runs on 10 hits. They won Game 1 easily by the score of 8-1. Grissom collected an additional 2 hits and 3 RBIs after the home run, doubling home Mike Lansing and Sean Barry in the 4th, and driving Barry home again in the 8th on a dribbler up the middle. New York's fortunes did not improve in Game 2. The pitcher's duel between Jimmy Key and Pedro Martinez saw the 2 teams knotted up at 0 going into the top of the 8th. After Key walked the leadoff hitter Larry Walker, Yankees manager Buck Showalter calls upon lefty Paul Gibson to face the catcher Darren Fletcher. On a 2-1 count, Fletcher rolled over the pitch and grounded a tailor-made double play to Gold Glove third baseman Wade Boggs. Now, Boggs, of course, one of the best defensive third basemen in baseball history, right? Don't count your chickens before they hatch in the postseason. Boggs secures the ball in his glove, but he rushes the throw, uncharacteristically airmailing the ball over the head of second baseman Pat Kelly and into the outfield, allowing Fletcher to reach first and Walker to advance to third. Gibson obviously rattled, but Showalter made a questionable decision to leave him in the game to face shortstop Will Cordero. Gibson struggled to find the strike zone. The first pitch of the at-bat was well above Cordero's head, while the second pitch nearly hit the batter. After a mound visit from catcher Mike Stanley,
Gibson proceeded to uncork a ball so far out of the strike zone that it would put Major League character Ricky Bond to shame.
As it ricocheted off the backstop, Walker scored easily, and Fletcher advanced to second, giving the Expos a 1-0 lead. Stanley once again made a trip to the mound to console his pitcher. On a 3-0 count, Gibson delivered a meatball right down Broadway. Cordero did not miss it. He hammered the ball into the left field seats of the old Yankee Stadium, putting Montreal up 3-0, the score that they would eventually win by. After a much-needed off day, the Yankees' bats came out swinging in Game 3. Bernie Williams got the first inning started with a single, and after a Wade Boggs flyout, Danny Tartabull singled, and Mike Stanley drew a walk to load the bases. This brought up Yankees captain Don Mattingly, who was still looking for his first hit of the series. He chose a pretty good time to collect it, as the veteran first baseman turned on a 3-1 Jeff Facero pitch over the fence for his first career postseason home run, a grand slam to put the Yanks up 4-0 early, much to the excitement of the Yankees bench. This excitement was short-lived, however, as the Expos began to chip away at New York starter Sterling Hitchcock. Montreal scored 1 in the bottom of the second thanks to 3 straight 2-out singles from Cliff Floyd, Moses Alou, and Larry Walker, and a 2 in the bottom of the fourth on a 2-run shot by Marquise Grissom. Now, I will say, Sterling Hitchcock,
Not his best pitching performance, but
he's got a cool name. On the pitching side of things, Pissarro settled down and retired 10 straight batters following Matt Engling's grand slam. He ended up making it through the fifth with his team down 4-3. The score held until the top of the eighth, when the Yankees got an insurance run via a Paul O'Neill solo shot to extend New York's lead to 2 runs. With the score still at 5-3 entering the bottom of the ninth, Yankees closer Steve Howe entered the game. 3 outs, and the Yankees would be looking at a 2-1 deficit. Much more manageable than 3-0. Alas, it was not meant to be. Howe hadn't seen action since Game 6 of the ALCS and was noticeably rusty because of it. He walked the leadoff man Darren Fletcher on 4 pitches and got away with a flat fastball to Will Cordero, who got under the ball a little too much and popped out to second base. After a 5-pitch strikeout to Sean Berry, Howe let up a single to pinch hitter Juan Bell, bringing a hot-hitting Marquise Grissom to the plate, with the tying run on first. After a mound visit from Showalter, Howe got ahead of Grissom and on an 0-2 count threw an inside pitch that was ripped down the left field line. Fletcher scored easily, and left fielder Luis Polonia fielded the ball and threw it to the cutoff man Mike Gallego. As Berry hustled around third, it became apparent that Gallego's throw was going to be him home. However, when Gallego fired the ball to catcher Mike Stanley, Berry slid headfirst under the catcher's glove, his right hand touching home plate in a split second before Stanley was able to place the tag on him. Once again, New York's bullpen faltered, and the Expos had taken the wind out of their sails. Howe induced a 6-4-3 double play from the next batter, Cliff Floyd, and the game went into extras. Didn't matter. The momentum had belonged to Montreal, who went on to win the game in the bottom of the 10th on a walk-off sac fly by none other but Will Cordero. The Expos now held a commanding 3-0 series lead. So, going into Game 4, Yankees down 3-0.
Yep.
Obviously, at this point in 1994, no one's ever overcome that deficit. So what do you think happens?
I think it's pretty clear. the Expos are definitely probably going to win this series. They're probably going to get the sweep the way they've been playing, coming back. The Yankees have no answer for them right now, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, it took just 2 innings of Game 4 for the public to realize that the 1994 World Series had peaked during Games 2 and 3. The Expos were not to be denied, once again pummeling Yankee starter Jim Abbott, this time for 5 earned runs in just an inning and a third.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah, not pretty. Showalter turned to right-hander Bob Wickman with men on second and third to try and stop the bleeding. He was unsuccessful, and by the end of the inning, the Expos were up 7-0. They went on to win the game 13-3 and the series 4-0. Marquise Grissom was named MVP, and after back-to-back championships from the Toronto Blue Jays in 92 and 93, the Commissioner's Trophy remained north of the border. So, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, the Expos got their championship.
No, it's really heartwarming to see, and what you're really going to like is what happened after that.